What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Sports Talk on Tap video. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether that be NFL, NBA, MLB, or NHL, games, news, highlights. We're here to talk. Nick, it's an exciting time. Training camp for most teams is going to get underway within this next week or so. This week, most likely for a lot of teams. So, there'll be a lot of news to come out once that starts up. But with that being said, figured – in honor, of training camp starting up, we'll do kind of our last, early, prediction, for this upcoming season. Kind of, we have a tier list here of teams, variety of wins, 12 plus wins, 9 to 11, so really solid teams, 6 to 8, kind of middle of the pack, 4 to 5, like below average, obviously not great, and then 3 or less at the bottom of the barrel, tanking for Shedeur Sanders or whoever's going to be the number one pick. But with that being said, Nick, I'm curious. We might have some agreements, disagreements. But we'll just get right into it and see where it goes from there. First team, Arizona Cardinals. I think this team was underrated last year competitively. I think they were competitive in a lot of games, especially with Kyler Murray missing over half the season. And you add Marvin Harrison Jr. They obviously still have a lot of holes that they got to work on. But it's tough because with this list, you separate it. They're like the definition, I think, of like a 6-win team to me. 6 wins.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think Kyler Murray coming back, and we saw him, like you just said, keeping them in a lot of games against way better teams. I think Marvin Harrison's going to be a breakout receiver. I think he was NFL ready last year. So
yeah, instant stuff.
That's going to be a huge pickup. James Conner still. I know you love James Conner. You're super high on him. So I think this team will be much more competitive. I don't think they're a division winning team. I don't think they're a playoff team, but they're going to be a team that's in every game just because of their offense.
Yeah, 100% agree. Next team, the Falcons. I think this is a 9-10 win team, probably 10, I would say. So the 9 to 11 wins for me.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I would say like 9. The way we can do this is like the teams on the lower end will be 6.
Yeah, no. So like the Cardinals, I'm leaning more towards 6. So we'll have them like at the end of they spread out Atlanta as well. Will probably be the lowest of this group. Next team, Ravens. I don't think they're going to win 13 games again last year, but I still think with Lamar Jackson, you have that high floor. I'm thinking they get around 10 to 11 wins. So I'm thinking more 11, but.
Yeah, I would have said high 9 to 11 wins too.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, definitely 11. Next team, Buffalo, with Josh Allen. They're still going to be above 500. I think they brought in some interesting receiving options with Curtis Samuel, drafting Keon Coleman to kind of help replace Diggs. Some more youth. Nick, I think kind of regardless. I know, we're all kind of a little bit lower on the Bills, but, I know me and you kind of aren't high on the Dolphins per se, nor the Jets. The Jets, for me, have always been, you have to prove it before I even believe a team. So for me, that reason, I'll probably put Bills in the 9 to 11 wins. I think they'll get around 10.
I was just going to say that exact thing. I was going to say, I think the Bills are like a 10-win team just because I know the AFC East isn't like loaded with superstars and high caliber teams, but it's always super competitive. So like the Jets Bills games, Patriots Bills games, Dolphins Bills games, those are all going to be close competitive games, and a few of them might not go the Bills' ways, which is going to take a few wins away from them. But I still think they come out on top of the division with probably 10 wins will win it for them. If they go 10-7, they'll probably win the division.
I like it. Next team, Carolina. So, I'll just say, anyone who's been following us this NFL offseason, I'm kind of riding that Panthers train, bold prediction, sneaky wild card team. With that being said, they got to prove it first. But I don't think they're going to be 3 or less regardless. I think they've made enough improvements, and I think just a second-year leap and a new head coach. Nick, I would say I think you would consider putting them in like the 4 to 5 wins.
I'll put them there. I think they will get better with the new coach.
Yeah. Okay. So, fair enough. I agree there. Next team, the Bears. A lot of people have them in that probably 9-11 win tier. I'm just not quite sure yet. I think they put all the pieces around him, but I'm not sure how Caleb Williams is going to perform. I'm leaning more towards 8 wins just because the Bears haven't been able to develop a QB in pretty much their whole franchise's history. So more so another thing where I believe it when I see it, obviously is all the talent in the world and they've made the good right things, but it's also the Bears. So I think they have a good roster, but it's not a sure thing that Odunze is going to be, this great receiver right away. Even though he definitely has the talent too. I'm going to caution, and I'd put them more in 6-8. But Nick, I mean, if you want to fight the 9-11,
No, I would also put them right at like 7 or 8 wins. I'll go 8 wins because I think that's for year one of Caleb Williams. I think that would be a huge win for the Bears franchise if they get 8 wins and he plays good in all those games.
Yeah,
I think that's
the problem is a lot of Bears fans want playoffs right away, and it's like
you can't.
It's going to take a while to adapt.
In that division, they cannot expect that. There's the Packers and the Lions, and even the Vikings are going to be competitive. But like the Packers and the Lions are 2 teams that are really competing to go to the Super Bowl because they both could have done it last year. So I don't think it's realistic for Bears fans to all of a sudden be thinking we're going to win, 12 games. Caleb Williams is going to be in MVP talks. If he is, then that's great for him, but I just can't see that happening.
Fair enough. Next team, Cincinnati Bengals. We're both high on them seeding wise, had them as a top seed. So I think this may be our first 12+ win team.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would agree.
Enough.
Just because, how good.
Joe Burrow, insane MVP season coming up. Book it. Next team, Nick, Cleveland Browns. I don't care if I'm starting, you're starting, or, Deshaun Watson's starting. Stefanski will let the team play winning football regardless. So for me, I'm going to have them probably. They might be on the lower end, but even then, I still think they're pretty good. So I'd go 9-11. I think they're still going to be
I would say right around 10 wins. I think
10 wins for me.
And it's honestly a pretty solid roster. That defense is really good. Yeah. So I think that defense, a healthy Nick Chubb and Kevin Stefanski is going to equal 10 wins at least.
Yep. Next team, Nick, Dallas. I think this team, we're definitely getting a lot of, hate, rightfully so, because they didn't do much in the offseason. But I still think this roster with Dak, Micah, Trayvon Diggs coming back, it's CeeDee Lamb. It's still a 10-win roster, I'd say.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to put on the season they did, last year or the year before where they were, like, insanely good. And
12+ wins.
Yeah. I would still put them, I think they're going to win probably 10 or 11 games, maybe more so 11.
Exactly. Next team, the Denver Broncos.
Are they the first 3 or less? I can't.
I think so.
I can't see them winning more than 3 games with that roster.
I would say though, Sean Payne, if there was one guy that could make Bo Nix look good, maybe.
Is Bo Nix going to be their starter, or is it going to be like?
I heard reports he was looking good at whatever it was, mandatory mini camp.
Everybody looks good with t-shirt and shorts.
I'm fine with 3 wins. Next team, Lions. I have them as my 1 seed. I think they're going to be either way. I think they're still a really solid roster. They got better this offseason. 12 wins for me.
Yeah, me too. I think that's not an easy 12 wins, but that's
Wouldn't surprise me if the next team, Packers, also won 12, but just given them they're in the same division, I'm going to go probably 10-11. I think they're going to be kind of.
I'll put them right in the middle of this category because I agree. Yeah. I think they'll still be double digit, but yeah.
Yeah, not quite as refined. Next team, the Texans. Did a lot of improvement, already a 9-win team. I think this might be my, I'd probably put them even ahead of the Cowboys. Probably like on the verge of 11 wins. Wouldn't surprise if they live up to the hype.
I thought you were going to put them in 12, so I thought we were going to have a little bit of a disagreement. But yeah, I would put them right at 11.
Well, wins. Me, because one thing I've always been saying this offseason is just watch out for a second half or a beginning of the sophomore slump on CJ Stroud just because there's a film out on him right now. And I'm just caution. Diggs is a great name, but he's also a diva for a reason, and there's a reason teams trade him. So be careful. Next team, the Colts. I mean, year one with Shane Steichen, they had 9 wins this year. They're going back Anthony Richardson. They have a solid roster, Nick. I would say probably on the lower, we're starting to get a little theme here, but I'd still think they're probably around 9 wins.
You think so? I would have put them at 8 just because I think that division's competitive. But if you want to go 9, we can.
We can put them at 8 for the sake we're getting too many 9-win teams. But Colts fans in my heart blame Nick for this one. I think you guys are 9 wins.
Well, there is a few not so great teams coming up. So
yeah. Next team, Jaguars. I'm high on the Jaguars comeback. And either way, I still think even if you're not the biggest Jags fan, they're going to finish around 8 to 9 wins. So, Nick, where do you want to go with this one?
I'm okay giving them 10 wins. Honestly, I think the more we've talked about it, I know at the beginning of the year I was kind of
beginning of the offseason, you were a Jags hater.
But I think the more I think about it, the more I'm in on Trevor Lawrence and his development. So I think
people just forget this team was the 1 seed 12 weeks in before injuries really piled up. Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain, did not play the same, even missed a game, and then Christian Kirk went down. But now if they come back, you lost Calvin Ridley, but you just get some Brian Thomas first round, get Gabe Davis, who's a big threat. So I respect them. 10 wins. Next team, Chiefs, 12 wins for me. I think their worst regular season was probably last season, and that was just everyone sabotaging, and they still won 11 games. And based on Nick, I don't know if you saw Xavier Worthy and Mahomes' connection is already insane. So I'm putting the Chiefs. They're going to get even better this regular season. 12 wins.
And a signing that they picked up that I always forget about just because it feel like it was so under the radar was Hollywood Brown, another speedster who's just going to be going crazy with Mahomes. So I agree. Their floor was probably what they were last year when everybody was purposely dropping Mahomes' perfect passes. So if their receivers catch the ball, they'll have 12 wins.
Yeah. Next team, Raiders.
I want to say 6 to 8 lower end. I still don't.
Yeah, I think they're a 6-win team. I think they'll play hard with Antonio Pierce. They'll kind of be in the similar boat with the Cardinals. In a lot of competitive games just because they have some talent like still Devontae Adams there, Max Crosby, but they just won't be able with whoever's starting Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. They just won't be able to figure it out. Next team, the Chargers. I like the Chargers, but
I'm higher on the Chargers this year.
I still want to see them get a wide receiver. I've seen the Brandon Ayuk links, which would be insane.
Yep.
I still think they're a good team. If you want to fight me and put them in 9 to 11, I'm cool. But for now, I got to put them with 8 just because that wide receiver room is so blank. And that defense is still a huge question mark. Even adding, Jim Harbaugh, we expect the defense to improve. But is it just going to be personnel or what? I'm curious. I mean, you still have Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa if they're healthy. But, there's still too many question marks there. So for now, I got to put them in the 8-win range until I see what's proven.
Okay. I really want to put them in 9, but I do think with the issues in that receiver room, they're probably going to be around here. And also, even with a fantastic coach like Harbaugh, it might take a game or two to, get going and really know their identity. And in those few games,
even a couple weeks, you never know.
They might not look good the first 2 or 3 weeks just because they're trying to reestablish their identity. Jim Harbaugh is obviously a completely different, coach than Brandon Staley. So that's just going to be a change of scene for the better. But it might take them a few games, which, might result in an ugly start. So I can give them 8 wins. I'll give them – should I put them high or, these are both 8. So,
yeah. Next team, Rams. This is probably another disagreement. I've seen your regular season predictions already. You're really high on the Rams.
Mhm.
I think losing Aaron Donald is going to make that defense a lot worse because I think he covered up for a lot of the players on that team that were just kind of rookies or, guys on minimum contracts. Or maybe not a lot worse, but regardless, I think worse. Matthew Stafford is just always a question mark for me health over these last couple of years. He stayed healthy for the stretch from last year. But him, Cooper Kupp, the reliability, if they're fully healthy, this team I could see winning 10 games or so. But I would play it safe and have them high 8, but I know, you're higher on them. So, I'll let you decide.
That hurts my soul. I would have put them at like 10 to 11 wins. I'm so high on the Rams this year. I think it's going to be, I completely
They're
understand.
inconsistent for me. It wouldn't surprise me if they won, 11 games or they won like 6 with injuries just because that's the kind of team the Rams are.
I completely agree with you in the fact that any defense that loses Aaron Donald is going to get worse no matter who they are. But I think it's going to be their offense this year. I think they're going to have a really good offense. Stafford,
will Cooper Kupp stay healthy?
What's that?
Will Cooper Kupp stay healthy?
I think he will. I think, last year he played, what did he play, like 9 or 10 games? Because I know he started the year on the bench. Or not on the bench.
That was like 8 games as well. So it's just too many question marks for me.
I do think Cooper Kupp's going to stay healthy because, call it rest, call it being injured, whatever you were. He hasn't played really a full season since that Super Bowl year a few years ago. So, and I think that's in some weird way a blessing in disguise for him because it's giving his body a rest. So I think with him and also with Puka Nacua out there, he's not the main focus. Teams aren't doubling him. It's not as physically demanding for him to, have to get open every time, have to take every single hit. Stafford, I think, is the bigger question mark, but I think if Stafford stays healthy, this is going to be a top team in the NFC. But, let's go.
It very well could. But
I'll go right above the Falcons, just to meet in the middle.
When hearing their explanations, it's just a lot of ifs for me. And
it's always ifs.
I'm too lazy to think about that.
If Drake May is the next Patrick Mahomes,
no, but those are not. Really good. Those are just big hypothetical ifs. There's just, if Aaron Donald, isn't missed that much, this defense can be all right. It's just if Matthew Stafford stays healthy, if Cooper Kupp stays healthy, which it very well could, because maybe you're right. You take a couple injury years and then you're finally back into things. But, he's also getting up there in age now, believe it or not. I think he's like, 30 or something like that. So, and when you play, you can see the wear and tear. But, Puka's still there. Tyler Higbee is a really underrated tight end in this league. But yeah, that's fine. Me in the middle around like 10 wins, 9 wins. Next team, the Miami Dolphins. I'm thinking like 8 to 9 wins for this team. Yeah. I think they're going to regress. They didn't do much this free agency, pretty much just besides get worse, losing Van Ginkel, Christian Wilkins. You had a Kendall Fuller, so the secondary will be all right. But until Tua proves it, I think this team is going to be, high 8 to 9 win team. And then, from there on out, we'll have to see.
Okay. I put them in 8 just because, we're getting a little too clustered with all these 9 to 11.
That's fine. Next team. We have a string of our 2 favorite teams coming up. For me, I don't even really think it's that biased. I think Vikings are going to be competitive, but I'm not expecting, many big things this year just because J.J. McCarthy's not starting. Sam Darnold. I think they're going to still win, though, like 7 games. They're going to find a way to be really competitive. I
was going to put them at 7. So, what do we have the Bears at? 7 wins? So with the right
7, 8, yes, around there.
Yeah, so I agree.
Next team, Patriots. I think not being a hater, I just think, thinking about these question marks, the QB, the receivers, for Jacoby Brissett, I think they're going to win 5 games. That's just the landscape and the way the NFL
I respect that. I thought you were going to trash on them, put them in 3 wins. I think they're going to win 4 or 5 games.
I know a lot of people that would, Nick. So, put them in the 4 to 5 range and take it.
That's exactly where I would have put them. If you get, if I was leading that off, I would have said 4 to 5 wins. They're gonna compete in a few of these games. They're probably gonna get blown out in a few of the games where Jacoby Brissett or whoever's playing quarterback plays awful. like we've seen in the past, and just doesn't help the defense. But I think their defense is going to be what wins them 4 or 5 games.
Yeah. Next team, the Saints. I think they're always kind of just going to be middle of the pack, 6 to 8 wins.
I'll put
They
them.
won sneakily 9 games last year, but they're just the NFC South got better. And I just don't think the whole NFC really got better. And I just don't trust the Saints. Derek Carr, that contract, boy, that's rough. Next team, the Giants. You're also on mute, Nick. I don't know if he knows. And then 4 to 5 wins for me, I'd say. There you go.
You put 4 to 5 wins for the Giants. I want to put them in 3, but if you want to put them 4 to 5, I'll give them their respect. They do have some talent.
I think they're going to be, losing Saquon obviously might make you bring them down, but we'll see what Malik Neighbors does. I think their defense is going to be too good. I think similar to the Patriots, that defense is going to win them a lot of games, or not a lot, but the games they do win,
right?
Because of that defense. When you add Brian Burns, you already have a great front seven with Thibodeau. You get they do lose Avery McKinney, but that front seven might be the best in football, and that's not even like a hot take. That front seven, or that at least pass rush front line, has got some dogs on them. I think it's Brian Burns, Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. So that team, that's a badass front line. I think that defense will be just fine. Deontay Banks in the back to help man them down. Next team, Jets. Believe it when I see it. Obviously, that defense is really good. I think the offense will be good, but I'm still 8 to 9 wins. I'm not going to bank them being like this 11-win team until I see it.
I was thinking more so like 7 wins.
Well, 8. Yeah, we could put them in high 8, right where the Dolphins are, or give Miami respect. I'd put them right behind Miami. I'm giving Miami respect. They've been better than them.
Okay. I think for those 2 teams, I think it's going to be opposites for the season, because I think that's how both their quarterbacks operate. I think the Jets are going to start slow. Miami's going to start hot. And then as the year goes on, they're going to kind of flip. Like Rodgers usually goes on these, end of the season runs where he wins like 4 or 5 games in a row, puts his team in the playoff talks, if they're not that good. He even did it, a few years ago. We were talking about when they started 3-8, and then they got all the way to 8-8, had to win that game for the playoffs, and then the Lions beat them. But I think it could be very similar this year.
Next team, Eagles. I think regular season wise, I'm having them bouncing back, and I know you're super high on the Eagles. I'm thinking around 11 wins, just because there's some question marks. I'm not going to give them their respect and put them in the 12-plus win, just because I still think there are some holes that they have to figure out in the secondary that I'm concerned about. And just Nick Sirianni leading the team, not 100% certain.
I'll give you that. I think that they'll be – I would have said 12 or maybe even 13, but – I do know, the Niners coming up. That's another team that I expect 12 or 13 wins from. So it's tough to put that many NFC teams in that high category. So I'll give the Eagles that.
Yep. And then next team, I don't care if they have your football roster or your high school football team, my high school football team, the Pittsburgh Steelers are winning 9 games, so we can pencil them in. Believe it when I see it when Mike Tomlin has a losing season.
Mm-hmm.
Next team, 49ers. I do have some question marks with this team, Nick, if they do lose Brandon Ayuk. Maybe we could actually move the Eagles up the more I'm thinking about it, because I think the Niners are going to be a 10-win team for me.
Right, because Brandon Ayuk's a huge factor. And
I don't think he's playing there. And even if he does, Nick, I've talked about before, how many times can you climb up this mountain of losing 4 straight Super Bowl NFC champions and grind through this regular season? They're going to lose the games they're not supposed to. I think they're going to win around 10 games for me.
It does take a lot out of you. I mean, and of course, Brandon Ayuk not being there is going to be all the because the Niners have said they're not going to trade him, but he says he wants a trade. So that's just already a
he's got to get his contract.
That's a disaster in the making.
Next team, Nick, the Seahawks. I think they're kind of going to fall off a little bit, just with losing Pete Carroll. You still have that great wide receiver core. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba will be much improved, or not even much, but will get better in year 2. But there's just a lot of interesting factors with this team. They're in a pretty tough division when you have the 49ers. The Rams, you got to go up against the Cardinals, who you continue to think will improve. So I'm going to pencil them in around like 7 to 8 wins.
Yeah, I was going to put them right in that category.
Yeah, and they kind of fell off at the end of last season. Next team, Bucks. I'm tempted. I'm thinking like 8 to 9 wins. I think they're going to finish right around where they did last year. Maybe lose a game just with the Falcons getting better. So that's why I think they're high end of this tier.
Yep, I agree. I would put them, about high 6 to 8 tier.
Yeah.
Probably get 8 wins.
Next team, Titans. I think could surprise some people. I think Will Levis will play some good ball. You had Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins. And then they also added Tyler Boyd, so that's a great wide receiver room. The defense made some interesting additions. Obviously, you had L'Jarius Sneed. This team, Nick, could be a dark horse playoff team, but for now, I think we have to pencil them in and like the 6 to 8 wins until we see it from Will Levis.
I think I'd put them like right above the Jets. I think they're a little bit better than the Jets, but I don't think they're where the Dolphins are.
Oh, so you're pretty high on the Titans. Have them over the Colts and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I am. I know they lost Derrick Henry, but that receiving group, and we saw flashes from Will Levis last year, and that defense got really good this offseason. So
my biggest question mark is probably Brian Callahan, just because the offensive coordinator. But Zach Taylor, how much is it really him? Compared to Brian Callahan. So that'll be the one interesting. But if he has any of the offensive mastermind, that he showed with Joe Burrow and the Bengals, this team should be very intriguing. And then the last team, the Commanders.
I got them.
Yeah, 4 to 5. I think their defense will be scrappy. I think Jane Daniels, though, I know you love him, Nick. I think will struggle. You have Terry McLaurin, so maybe that could be a dynamic connection. But just the offensive line, Jay McDaniels already a very sack-heavy taker as it is with this not great offensive line. Could see some rough 3rd and 30s in DC, 3rd downs, 30 yards to go. But we'll see. I'm curious. Obviously, people think there's a reason why he went number 2, so he's got the talent to make it work. But we'll see. I think they made some interesting moves with Dan Quinn to beef up that defense. So I think it'll be a scrappy team. But I think they're like in a similar pin like the Giants. Very great front seven. But after that, a lot of question marks. But Washington obviously has the intriguing piece at QB. When for the Giants, we kind of know who Daniel Jones is. Right at this point.
I think we're gonna see flashes from Jaden Daniels, like very, very small flashes, just because he's just not gonna have the opportunity to do it. Obviously with that awful offensive line and pretty competitive division. So it pains me to say, as soon as he got drafted there, my head went down because I knew that was one of the.
At least you're not being biased. That's all we can say. But with that being said, should be very fun. We'll probably take a look back on this, a couple months from now, see how stupid some of them already look. But with that being said, we'll be here. Like we said, training camp starting up for a lot of teams this week. Should be very exciting times. And we'll be here to talk about news as that kind of progresses throughout the rest of July into August, with preseason coming up and the Hall of Fame game only like 2 weeks away or something. So crazy fun stuff. With that being said, let us know in the comments whether you agree, disagree with this list. Did we absurdly rank a team too high or too low? We're always here to get your guys' takes. But with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and we'll catch you next one. Peace.